Damon Pierce did everything the way the instructions said. He didn't rush. He didn't guess. He didn't try to game the system. He read the county court website 3 times, clicked every FAQ link, and still called the helpline once to confirm which form to upload and what file type they wanted. Then he stayed up late scanning documents until they were clean, numbered, and under the size limit. Because when you're fighting for custody time, extra weekends, a stable schedule, a chance to be present, paperwork isn't paperwork. It's your child's life written in PDFs. Damon was black, 36, and he'd learned the hard way that missing paperwork was one of the easiest ways to make you lose without anyone saying you lost. So he e-filed early, 2 days before the deadline. At 11:17 p.m., with his kitchen table covered in printed instructions and his laptop fan running hot, Damon uploaded the motion through the county's e-filing portal, paid the filing fee, and waited for the spinning wheel to stop. It stopped. A confirmation page appeared. Submission. Successful receipt number 2419-8830-D. F timestamp 11:17 p.m. Status: delivered to Clerk. Damon didn't just take a screenshot, he printed it. Because screenshots got dismissed. Printers made things real to people who loved pretending they never saw your email. He placed the paper into a folder with copies of his motion, the service list, and the supporting declarations. He went to bed exhausted but relieved. He had filed. Now the court could do what it did. 2 days later, Damon stood inside the Franklin County Courthouse under fluorescent lights that made everyone look a little sick. The security line moved slow. The metal detector beeped every third person. The air smelled like old paper and disinfectant. Damon wore a clean button-down and dark jeans, his folder tucked under his arm like a shield. His hearing was next week, and his attorney had told him one simple thing. Go confirm the filing is on the docket. Don't assume. So Damon didn't assume. He approached the clerk's window. Thick glass, a small speaker, a metal slot at the bottom for documents. Behind it sat a white woman in her late 50s with reading glasses perched low and a posture that said she'd been dealing with people like this all day. Her nameplate read, Miss Dalton, Civil Clerk. She didn't look up right away. Next. Damon stepped forward, calm and polite. Good morning. I'm here to confirm my e-file submission was received and docketed. Case number, he read it from his folder carefully, FC223187. Ms. Dalton typed slowly, eyes unmoved. Then she leaned back and said, Flat. Nothing was filed. Damon blinked once. It was filed. Ms. Dalton's lips pressed together. Sir, I'm looking at the docket. Nothing was filed. Damon's chest tightened, but he kept his voice even. I e-filed 2 days ago. I have the receipt number and timestamp. Ms. Dalton gave a small shrug. Receipts don't mean it was received. Damon stared at her. The receipt says, delivered to Clerk. Ms. Dalton's tone sharpened slightly, like Damon was being unreasonable for trusting the system she worked for. The portal says a lot of things. Damon took a slow breath. Can you search by receipt number? Ms. Dalton sighed as if Damon had asked her to lift a heavy box. We don't search by those. Damon's voice stayed calm. You can. The portal generates a transaction record tied to the receipt. Ms. Dalton's eyes narrowed. Are you telling me how to do my job? Damon felt the familiar trap open under his feet. No matter how calm he was, disagreement became disrespect. Request became attitude. He kept his tone low. No, ma'am. I'm asking you to verify the filing. The deadline is tomorrow. Ms. Dalton leaned closer to the speaker, her voice crisp. Then you should have filed earlier. Damon's jaw tightened. I filed 2 days ago. Ms. Dalton's face didn't change. It's not here. Behind Damon, A couple people in line shifted. One man sighed loudly, impatient. Damon felt the pressure, social shame pushing him to step away, accept the no, and deal with it quietly so everyone else could move on. But Damon didn't move. He slid the printed confirmation page under the metal slot, careful and deliberate. "Here is the confirmation," Damon said calmly. "Receipt number, timestamp, status, delivered to Clerk." Ms. Dalton glanced down at the paper, but didn't pick it up at first. She looked at Damon through the glass, like she wanted to see how he would react to being ignored. Then she picked up the paper with 2 fingers, read it quickly, and set it down again. "This isn't proof," she said. "People submit things wrong. Wrong case number, wrong document type. Then it doesn't go through." Damon's throat tightened. "The confirmation shows the case number." Ms. Dalton waved a hand dismissively. "I'm telling you, sir, nothing is on the docket." Damon forced himself to stay calm. "Then it's in your e-file queue, not docketed yet." Ms. Dalton's eyes narrowed. "If it was received, it would show." Damon shook his head slightly. "Not necessarily. There's a processing step. It can be delivered and still waiting review." Ms. Dalton's mouth tightened. "Sir, you're arguing." Damon kept his voice low. "I'm clarifying." Ms. Dalton leaned back and said the sentence like it ended the world. "We did not receive it." Damon went very still, because "we did not receive it" meant more than a missing PDF. It meant Damon could miss the deadline and lose time with his child because a clerk's screen didn't show what it should. He could feel his pulse in his throat now. He tightened his grip on the folder until his knuckles went pale, then forced his hand to relax. "Okay," Damon said quietly. "I need to speak with an e-filing supervisor." Ms. Dalton's eyebrows rose in annoyance. "They'll tell you the same thing." Damon didn't blink. "Please get them." Ms. Dalton stared for a beat, then reached for a phone without enthusiasm. As she dialed, she said, loud enough for Damon to hear through the glass, "I have another one insisting he filed something that isn't here." Another one. Damon felt anger flare, but he held it down. Because this wasn't about pride. This was about the receipt number in his folder, a number that meant the system had accepted his submission. And Damon wasn't leaving that window until someone matched that number to the record and admitted the truth. The filing was received. Ms. Dalton kept her eyes on the screen while she waited on the phone, like if she didn't look at Damon, he would become less real. Damon stood perfectly still at the window, folder pressed against his ribs. He could feel the line behind him, the impatience, the shifting weight of people who wanted him to either win fast or disappear. The speaker on Ms. Dalton's phone crackled. "Yes?" a voice said, male, tired, authoritative. Ms. Dalton didn't soften. "This is Dalton at Civil Intake. I have a gentleman here claiming an e-file was received. It's not on the docket." Damon watched her choose the word claiming like it was part of her uniform. The voice replied, "Receipt number?" Ms. Dalton hesitated and glanced down at Damon's printed page. Damon spoke calmly, clearly, through the glass. "Receipt number is 2419-8830-DF. There was a pause on the line, keyboard tapping. Then the man's voice came back, more focused. "I see it." Damon's chest loosened a fraction. Ms. Dalton's eyes narrowed. "You see it where?" "In the e-file queue," the man said. "Status, delivered to Clerk. Time, 11:17 p.m. 2 nights ago." Damon stared at Ms. Dalton. She didn't look at him. Her jaw tightened as if the words on the phone were inconvenient. "It's not on the docket," she repeated. The man's voice sharpened slightly. "Because it hasn't been accepted yet. It's pending review." Ms. Dalton's lips pressed into a thin line. "So it's not filed." Damon felt a cold anger rise, precise and controlled. He leaned in slightly, voice calm. "It was received." The man on the phone said, "Yes, received, not docketed." Damon held steady. "Then I need a receipt match confirmation in writing, because the deadline is tomorrow." Dalton's eyes flicked up, annoyed. "We don't do—" The man cut her off. "We can generate a Q confirmation email. What's the filer's email address?" Damon answered immediately. Ms. Dalton's expression tightened, as if she'd just lost an argument she tried to make Damon feel for. The man continued, "Mr. Pierce, your submission is in the queue. The receipt number you gave matches the portal record. You are not missing the deadline because it was submitted before cutoff." Damon swallowed slowly. "I need that stated." "You'll receive an email in the next few minutes," the man said, "and we will flag the submission for expedited review due to the deadline." Ms. Dalton's voice went stiff. "Expedited?" "Yes," the man replied. "Because it was received and should have been processed already." Ms. Dalton went quiet. Damon's pulse thudded, but his tone stayed even. "Thank you." The man on the phone said, "You're welcome. Stay at the window. I'm going to have Dalton print you a Q record as well." Ms. Dalton's cheeks flushed. "We don't print—" "Print it," the man said, flat. The line went dead. For a moment the only sound was the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant echo of footsteps down the courthouse corridor. Ms. Dalton stared at her monitor like it might save her. Then she clicked, shoulders tight, and walked to a printer behind the counter. Damon didn't move. He didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He just stood there, letting the truth settle into the room. When Ms. Dalton returned, she slid a sheet of paper under the slot without looking at Damon. It was a clerk-generated Q record, basic, black and white, the kind of internal printout that people acted like didn't exist until they needed it. Damon read it carefully. Receipt number 2419-8830-DF case FC-2-2-3187. Status, delivered to clerk, pending review. Timestamp, 11:17 p.m. Fee, paid, authorized. Damon's grip tightened slightly around the paper, relief and anger mixing. He looked up. "So you did receive it?" Ms. Dalton's mouth tightened. "It wasn't on the docket." Damon's voice stayed calm. "But you told me you didn't receive it." Ms. Dalton's eyes narrowed, irritated. "Sir, you're splitting hairs." Damon shook his head once, slow. "No, I'm protecting my time with my child." That landed. Not because she suddenly cared, because it made the stakes harder to dismiss. The line behind Damon shifted again. Someone cleared their throat. Ms. Dalton snapped, "Next," too loudly, trying to move the moment along like it had never happened. Damon stepped aside just enough to let the next person approach, but he didn't leave the counter area yet. He waited, watching his email inbox. 2 minutes, then 3. Then his phone buzzed. A new email arrived from Franklin County e-filing support. This message confirms that receipt number 2419-8830-DF was successfully submitted and delivered to the clerk's queue on date at 11:17 p.m. Submission remains pending review/acceptance. Filing deadline preserved based on timestamp. Damon exhaled slowly, the kind of breath that felt like unclenching a fist you'd been holding all day. He forwarded the email to himself again and saved it offline. Then he looked back at Ms. Dalton behind the glass. His voice stayed calm, no anger, no threat, just a fact. "If you tell the next person we didn't receive it," Damon said quietly, "you might cost them something they can't get back." Ms. Dalton's eyes flashed. "Are you lecturing me?" Damon shook his head. "I'm documenting." He tucked the printed Q record into his folder next to the confirmation page and turned toward the courthouse doors. As he walked out, The building felt the same. Cold lights, old walls, systems that pretended they were neutral. But Damon felt different. Because the receipt number, just a string of characters, had done what his calm voice couldn't at first. It forced the court to admit the truth. Not because Damon was trusted, because the record was undeniable.